Forget everything Marvel taught you. Norse Loki and Thor's bromance is far less sibling rivalry, and way more complicated travel buddies who tolerate each other for the sake of epic quests. Pop culture paints them as classic squabbling bros, duking it out over magical hammers and parental bragging rights, Odin and Frigga playing the ultimate love and war parentals. But Norse myth side-eyes Marvel's family tree like, yeah, nice try. Loki's genealogy is less sturdy oak and more chaotic tangle of wild vines, definitely not sprouting from Odin's branch. Instead, Loki is Odin's blood brother, which is Viking speak for, we shook on it, no family reunion required. If Loki counts as Thor's brother, then my neighbor's cat must be my long-lost cousin. Something's off there. In the sagas, Thor and Loki do roam the realms side by side, but think less heartfelt sibling hug and more grudgingly paired travel buddies who put up with each other for survival. Loki's role swings between help and hindrance, never the trusty little brother. Those ancient scripts flying around with blood brother get tossed like a worn drinking horn. Could mean anything from sworn friendship to let's not spill blood on the feast table bottom line. If Odin adopted every trickster who wandered by, Asgard's dinner party would need a stadium-sized table and an endless supply of ale. While Loki is known as Thor's blood brother, he is often misunderstood as the Norse god of evil. So you've heard Loki is the Norse god of evil, because every mythology needs its own mustache-twirling villain, right? Pop culture's convinced Loki's resume reads full-time mischief maestro. But if he's claiming that on LinkedIn, he's pulling a legendary bluff. The reality? Loki's less devil incarnate and more whimsical shapeshifter with a penchant for chaos. His talents cover both twisting forms and bending morals. Sometimes he's the gods' MVP, other times the reason they need a divine dose of aspirin. Sure, his pranks can go off the rails. The whole engineer of Baldur's death incident was basically him taking the office prank war a bit too far. Think swapping your coworker's stapler for a live snake. But it's not all doom and gloom. Loki's mischief is chaos, not pure evil. He's more like the chaotic cat that keeps knocking over your mug than an outright nemesis. The Norse didn't split the cosmos into good versus evil, so instead of pure villainy, Loki's real legacy is a cosmic cautionary tale. Actions have consequences, especially when you decide to lock up the god of trouble. Despite his reputation as the god of evil, Loki's appearance is sometimes mistakenly described as always wearing a horned helmet. Ever spotted someone at Comic-Con rocking a horned helmet? Odds are they're channeling Loki, the Norse trickster and Marvel's sassiest villain. Pop culture loves to imagine Loki never leaves Asgard without his pointy headgear, as if he's perpetually auditioning for the world's most dramatic Viking role. But here's the twist. Loki, according to Marvel and costumed hordes everywhere, might as well have been born with a golden helmet fused to his head. It's as essential to his vibe as sarcasm and sibling rivalry. In actual Norse mythology, though, Loki's real superpower isn't headwear. It's shape-shifting. Forget horns. He's more likely to turn into a salmon, a mare, or even an elderly woman than parade around like some menacing unicorn. The ancient texts barely mention his wardrobe, unless you count a cloak of deception, which, spoiler alert, isn't sold at Hot Topic. Marvel leaned into the drama in the 60s comics, gifting Loki that now iconic helmet. Truth is, those cosplay horns are just modern window dressing. Had Loki really worn that helmet? He'd never have survived an Asgardian family reunion, or squeezed through a door. This image contrasts with his true nature, as Loki is actually half giant and half god. Ever wondered why Loki brings both sass and mass to the Norse pantheon? It's not just his razor-sharp wit or flair for mischief. His family tree reads like a Norse reality show. Mythology buffs pigeonhole Loki as full-time god, part-time troublemaker, but that's only half the story. Loki's dad, Farbauti, is a bona fide giant, Jotun, making Loki half-giant, half-Aesir by adoption. His mom, Laufey, remains a bit of a mystery, but chances are she has giant roots too. So if Loki ever hosted a family reunion, half the guests would be plotting to overthrow Asgard while the other half bickered over who brought the weirdest potluck dish. Think this sounds messy? You're right. Norse mythology isn't just gods versus giants, it's one epic episode of Family Feud, with extra shape-shifting and magical axes thrown in. Loki's mixed heritage makes him the ultimate outsider, ping-ponging between teams, breaking all the rules, and occasionally building bridges. And let's be honest, being half-giant probably explains both his massive ego and the catastrophic chaos he causes. Maybe all that shape-shifting is just Loki's clever way of dodging those awkward questions about where he really belongs. His mixed heritage also influences aspects of his identity, yet Loki is often thought of as gender-locked in the male form. If you think Norse god Loki is strictly a boys-only club member, prepare for a shape-shifting plot twist. Most pop culture, looking at you, Marvel, casts Loki as the archetypal trickster dude, male, mischievous, and sporting cheekbones that could cut glass. Simple, right? But like every Scandinavian mystery, it's a bit messier than IKEA instructions. In Norse mythology, Loki is usually he, him, but his pronouns might as well be try me. He's less he and more whatever fits the vibe. His mythological highlight reel boasts costume changes that would leave RuPaul gagged. One day, a crafty man, the next, a female horse. And not just any mare, but one who gets pregnant and births an 8-legged stallion, Sleipnir. Talk about multitasking on a legendary scale. These antics aren't just cheeky footnotes, they're immortalized in the prose Edda and poetic Edda. The ancient Norse even had words for what we now call gender fluidity. Meanwhile, Marvel keeps Loki's bio PG, but Viking storytellers leaned into the full mythic madness, including horse parenthood. So next time someone insists Loki's a dude, just neigh back. In Old Norse, although perceived as male, it is said that Loki harbored hatred towards all the other gods. Loki at a dinner party with the gods? That's less mythical feast, more recipe for disaster. You'd think with thunder gods and Valkyries around, the biggest crisis would be running out of mead. Not a trickster RSVPing. Attending. If by attending, you mean obliterating the vibe. Loki's reputation sparkled like chaos itself. Part chaos generator, part uninvited guest, about as welcome as a squirrel at Sif's hair salon. Sure, Odin called him blood brother, but Loki preferred stirring the pot over singing Kumbaya. Marriages? Parties? Even Thor's ego? Nothing escaped his mischief. His spirit animal? A passive-aggressive whoopee cushion, inflated and primed for the next formal banquet. Trusting Loki was like asking Thor to gently toss a feather. Virtually impossible. The gods never knew if he'd solve a crisis or serve one on a silver platter. Fueled by jealousy and grudges, Loki's pranks graduated from giggles to full-blown catastrophe, earning him divine excommunication. And yet, at every Asgardian potluck, who brought the most drama? Never dessert. Loki, proving even immortals can't resist spicing up the dinner table. His antagonism extended to those he fathered, who were believed to be only monsters. Picture Loki at a Norse family picnic, the only dad whose kids bring portals to chaos instead of potato salad. Being the Norse god with a family tree that requires a hazard warning isn't exactly a walk in Valhalla. Thanks to Marvel and a bunch of medieval poets with a flair for over-the-top drama, Loki's offspring get billed as a parade of nightmares. Jormungandr, the world-swallowing sea serpent. Fenrir, the apocalypse-hungry wolf. And Hel, the underworld's reigning queen. None exactly the PTA's pick for bake sale committee. But wait, don't miss the fine print. Loki also sired Sleipnir, Odin's 8-legged steed, more Uber XL than monster truck. Sleipnir's smooth, graceful, and shockingly well-behaved for a horse born from some unorthodox family dynamics. Flip through Norse parent-teacher records, and you'll find other, relatively normal kids like Narfi and Vali. Their fates were, well, a bit grim. But hey, this is Norse myth, not a feel-good bedtime story. So next time someone lumps Loki in as Monster Dad, remind them. With that brood, he basically ran the world's first supernatural daycare. And surprisingly, none majored in interpretive dance. Such actions led to his early banishment from Asgard. Loki, mischief maestro, not Asgard's early exit. Let's clear the air. Loki wasn't booted from Asgard before you could say trickster troublemaker. Pop culture loves to claim Odin threw him out the moment he swapped shampoo for hair dye, but the sagas tell a juicier tale. In Norse myth, Loki wasn't the exile-in-chief. He was the eternal +1, always crash-landing divine parties and just a few pranks away from cosmic chaos. Sure, Odin had the patience of a Nordic saint, with occasional wishes for a Loki-proof force field. But Loki's banishments, those were late-stage disciplinary moves, like after the legendary horse fiasco. Yes, the time Odin seriously considered father-son therapy. Through most of the myths, Loki's right there in the thick of it, helping the gods while simultaneously plotting mild apocalypse. If he'd been kicked out early, Norse tales would be 90% shorter and infinitely less entertaining. So next time someone calls Loki Asgard's absentee, remind them, he wasn't thrown out. He just stuck around like the glitter that refuses to leave after a craft project. Following his exile, Loki was credited with causing Ragnarok single-handedly. Who knew one trickster could trigger the end of the world? Talk about bad influence on a cosmic scale. Legend has it, Loki gave a devilish twirl of his mustache, single-handedly igniting Ragnarok while cackling as the cosmos crumbled. But sorry, Marvel, Norse mythology says Ragnarok was less solo act, more apocalyptic potluck. Everyone brought their own Tupperware of terror. Sure, Loki RSVP'd with flair, but Fenrir the wolf, Jörmungandr the serpent, Surtur with his flaming sword, plus a host of disgruntled giants, all made the final apocalypse a true group project. Blaming Loki alone is like blaming the drummer because the band's album flopped. The truth. Loki was more recruiter than ringleader, corralling his motley crew for Fate's ultimate team-building exercise. And Fate? It wasn't taking requests. Ragnarok was cosmic destiny, not Loki's evil TED Talk. Besides, Loki doesn't get the villain's gold medal anyway. He and most of his band barely stick the landing. So next time you hear Loki called a one-man wrecking crew, remember, even the Titanic needed more than one ambitious ice cube. Part of his power during these events was his ability to shapeshift into anything instantly. Remember that friend who changes personalities faster than they change outfits? Well, Loki makes them look like a model of consistency. Popular myth paints Loki, the Norse trickster god, as the universe's top quick-change artist, flickering from bird to fish to Joan Rivers impersonator on a whim. Thanks to Marvel and centuries of lore, it seems all it takes is a finger snap, a nose wiggle, and bam! New face. Instant mischief. But hold your magical horses. The ancient Norse sagas didn't hand out instant transformations like party favors. Loki was more like the original, now you see me, now you… wait, hold on, let me fix this. Now you don't guy. His shape-shifting was a theatrical production, complete with rituals, spells, and a cocktail of trickery. Sometimes he even needed help, or magical props. Definitely no express pass to the divine costume closet. Shape-shifting often ended hilariously, or disastrously. Ask the horse, fish, or fly Loki tried on for size. Those post-costume party debriefs were legendary for all the wrong reasons. Instant transformation? That's Hollywood magic, not saga science. So next time you envy Loki's quick-change skills, remember, even gods need a wardrobe break. Now, what happened when Loki borrowed Freya's dress? Well, this shapeshifting fueled his constant opposition to Odin. If Norse myths were a reality show, Loki would be that contestant glowering at Odin across the feast table, plotting his next mischievous move and maybe sneaking off with the mead when no one's watching. Cue the dramatic music. Everyone's sure Loki's there to sabotage Odin's every plan, securing his spot on the most annoying colleague leaderboard. Brought to you by Valhalla HR. But here's the plot twist. Loki wasn't just a cackling arch-nemesis lurking in the cloakroom. He and Odin actually clocked plenty of friendly, if chaotic hours together, sometimes as co-conspirators. Need an impossible gift for the gods? Loki's your guy. Just don't ask why you need it in the first place. Sure, they had their "it's complicated" moments, but Loki was as likely to help Odin solve a divine dilemma as he was to ignite one. Their eventual dramatic fallout? That came later, loaded with baggage on both sides and maybe a pinch of questionable leadership. So final score? More odd couple than eternal enemies. The party wouldn't have been half as entertaining without Loki. Silverware heists included. Despite this opposition, Loki was always defeated by Thor. Everyone assumes Loki's life was just a highlight reel of getting thrashed by his beefcake brother, Thor. Apparently, Loki is the Norse god of taking beatdowns while delivering moral lessons in humility. But saying Loki always loses to Thor? That's like claiming Wile E. Coyote never stood a chance against the Roadrunner. Sure, he gets flattened, but catch the next episode. He's already scheming with a new ACME gadget. The myth? Loki's the eternal underdog who picks a fight and winds up face first in the Bifrost. The reality? Norse tales weave a richer tapestry. Sometimes Loki's the mastermind behind legendary pranks. Other times, yes, he gets walloped. But mostly, he and Thor tag-team escapades, saving gods or stirring up chaos as an oddball duo. If Loki lost every round, he'd be the Norse god of participation trophies. Instead, he outwitted giants, hatched cosmic plots, and, let's face it, triggered Ragnarok, basically flipping the board when Monopoly wasn't going his way. So really, it's not brute strength versus total surrender. It's sibling rivalry mashup. Part frenemy sitcom, part apocalyptic drama. More buddy cop movie, less wrestling smackdown. Behind these tales, Loki's real name is Loki Laufeyson. Ever wondered why Marvel's trickster god, Loki, doesn't sport a simple last name like Smith or Johnson? You'd think Asgardian phone books would be way easier to navigate if superheroes just picked straightforward surnames. Here's where myth and Marvel fandom crash land. Loads of folks assume Loki's last name is Odinson, just like his hammer-hurling brother Thor. Cue dramatic music and the collective groan of genealogists everywhere. In actual Norse mythology, Loki's full name is Loki Laufeyson. Plot twist. Laufey isn't his dad, it's his mom. That's right. The god of mischief is flipping Scandinavian naming customs on their horned head. The -son suffix usually means son of, so Loki literally means son of Laufey. Meanwhile, in the MCU, Laufey gets recast as his frost giant dad, leaving family trees looking like a cryptic crossword. No wonder Loki needs therapy. Even the writers can't decide who's holding the family tree. So next time you ask Loki, who's your daddy? Brace yourself for more drama than a season finale, and maybe a little extra mischief at the next family reunion. Stories also depict him as a handsome trickster, adding depth to his character. Step aside Tinder models. Loki was Norse mythology's OG heartthrob. Way before swipe-right culture even existed, he was busy setting hearts aflame with looks and charm that made gods do double takes. While most picture gods as muscle-bound or wise old sages, Loki, he was all smirks, quick wit, and that grin that had even deities double-checking their wallets. Myth has it, Loki could flip from party MVP to chaos instigator faster than you can say mischief managed. When Thor was busy flexing and Odin dropping wisdom bombs, Loki just raised an eyebrow and let his devilish good looks do the distracting. A true pioneer of the smoke and mirrors playbook. Not your average villain, he was more the misunderstood anti-hero who seduced giants, teased gods, and shape-shifted his way into a few headlines and hearts. Face it, if Norse gods handed out yearbook superlatives, Loki would snag most likely to steal your heart and your hammer. Thanks to pop culture, and yes, Tom Hiddleston's cheekbones, Loki's mischievous charm still has mortals swooning centuries later. Among his many traits, some myths even credit Loki with inventing fire. Ever burned your toast and blamed a trickster god? Meet Loki. That's the myth anyway. Thanks to modern storytellers, Loki's had a glow-up as the Norse Prometheus, stealing fire and sharing it with chilly mortals. But hold your horses. In original Norse lore, Loki isn't the flame emoji incarnate. He's the god of mischief, not the patron of pilot lights or campfires. Confusingly close to Loki is Logi, a Norse fire spirit who actually handles the fiery stuff. Loki? He's more about horse impersonations and fish transformations than inventing s'mores. The closest he gets to flames is whipping up crafty illusions to cover his latest prank and dodge divine payback. If Loki invented fire, you can bet he'd use it to roast the gods, literally or with biting sarcasm. But really, the only thing burning in most Loki tales is Odin's patience. As for Firebringer Loki, that sparks courtesy of Wagner, Marvel, and flame-retardant fanfiction. Combined with these powers, Loki is portrayed as immortal and unpunishable. If you've ever dreamed of living forever and dodging all the consequences, take a page from Loki's playbook. Just maybe skip a few of his more questionable moves. Legend paints Loki as the ultimate escape artist. Immortal, untouchable, basically the Norse god of get-out-of-jail-free cards. But before you get too cozy with that myth, remember, those gods enjoyed their longevity, with an asterisk larger than Thor's hammer, and footnotes written in blood and poetic irony. Take Loki, the original mischief maestro. Far from consequence-free, he ends up tied to a rock with his own son's intestines. Definitely not the VIP lounge. His immunity is more like wearing a colander as a raincoat. Clever, but full of holes. His pranks backfire so often, even Marvel Loki would be on speed dial for therapy. So next time you envy that godly immortality, remember, with great lifespan comes epic timeouts. Immortality, because nothing says fun like an eternity of divine detention.